Welcome to the 21st Century Immortal Game. Played in Danzhou, China, on July 2nd, 2015, by 16-year-old Chinese prodigy Wei Yi against Cuban Grandmaster Lazaro Bruzon Batista. Wei Yi was already a sensation, the youngest player in history to break 2,700 ELO at just 15 years and 7 months old. In this game, he produced one of the most spectacular combinations in modern chess, a rook sacrifice on f7 that launched an epic king hunt, dragging the black king from gate across the entire board before delivering checkmate on hi5. This is a game that rivals the original Immortal Game of 1851. Sit back and witness brilliance. 16-year-old Wei Yi opens with king's pawn to e4, a bold and aggressive choice fitting for the youngest player to ever break 2,700 ELO. Bruzon responds with the Sicilian defense, c5. The Cuban Grandmaster, the strongest Cuban player since Capablanca, chooses sharp counter-attacking play. Knight to f3, a natural developing move preparing to challenge the center. a6 supports a future d5 push and opens the diagonal for black's dark squared bishop. Knight to c3, developing rapidly. Wei Yi is building up pressure before committing to a specific Sicilian structure. a6, a flexible move preventing any nb5 ideas and preparing queenside expansion with b5. Bishop to e2, a quiet but flexible development. Wei Yi keeps his options open, a hallmark of modern Sicilian play. Knight to chicks, developing the knight to its most natural square and pressuring d4. d4. Wei Yi strikes in the center, the classic Sicilian pawn break Tato. The game opens up. Black captures on d4, the standard Sicilian exchange. The position transforms into an open Sicilian. Knight recaptures on d4, centralizing powerfully. White has a classical Sicilian setup with excellent piece activity. Queen to 7, a common Sicilian move connecting the rooks along the back rank and controlling the c-file. Wei Yi castles kingside, tucking his king to safety while activating the rook on f1 issue. Knight to f6, developing and attacking the e4 pawn. Standard Sicilian piece placement for black. Bishop to e3, developing the last minor piece and supporting the d4 knight. A solid, classical approach. Bishop to a7, a modest but solid development. Black completes minor piece development. Power. Wei Yi pushes the f-pawn aggressively, signaling kingside ambitions. This pawn will become a battering ram. Dix, solidifying the center and giving the Sate bishop a potential future on b7 via the long diagonal. King to hone, a prophylactic move removing the king from the gone a7 diagonal, and preparing 5 without tactical issues. Black castles kingside. Both kings are now on the king side, but Wei Yi's flower pawn hints at a coming storm. Queen to a1, an important regrouping move. The queen eyes the king side via g3 or h4, and the a1 h4 diagonal is opening. Black captures the d4 knight, eliminating a powerful centralized piece. But this helps White's development. Bishop recaptures on d4, maintaining central control and aiming at the king side along the long diagonal. b5, beginning queenside counterplay. This is Black's standard plan in the Sicilian. Expand on the queen side while White attacks the king side. Queen to g3. The queen arrives on the king side with menacing intent. It now stares directly at g7 and supports the f5 advance. Bishop to b7, completing the fianchetto and pressuring e4. A logical move, but the king side is where the battle will be decided. A3, a useful prophylactic move preventing any b4 ideas from black, and securing the queen side before launching the king side attack. Rook to d8, placing the rook on the semi-open d file. Black's position looks reasonable, but appearances are deceiving. Rook to a1, connecting the rooks and supporting the fr pawn. Every white piece is now poised for the assault. Rook to d7, doubling rooks on the d file and providing additional defense. A solid move by Bruzon. Bishop to d3, repositioning to a more aggressive diagonal. From d3, the bishop supports e4 and eyes the king side. Queen retreats to d8, losing a tempo. The queen was well placed on 7, and this move gives Wei Yi valuable time. Queen to h3, a powerful repositioning. The queen now aims directly at 7, and the combined pressure on the king side is building ominously. g6, weakening the kingside pawn cover but feeling necessary to prevent qs7 ideas. The dark squares around black's king are now fragile. 5. The pawn break lands with devastating timing. Wei Yi tears open the king's side, ripping apart the pawn shelter in front of black's king. A5, blocking the center and trying to keep the position closed. But the f-file is about to open with explosive consequences. Bishop retreats to e3, maintaining tension and redeploying the bishop. The dark squared bishop stays flexible for the coming combination. Rook to 8, reinforcing the f5 pawn. Black's position looks solid on the surface, but the storm is about to break. F takes g6, opening the f-file. The rook on f1 now has a clear path to the black king. The attack gains momentum. H takes g6, forced. Black's king's shelter is now severely compromised with the open h-file and weakened pawns. Knight to d5, a spectacular knight sacrifice. Wei Yi offers a full piece to blow open the position. If black takes, the f-file becomes a highway to the king. Black accepts the knight sacrifice. Declining would leave the knight dominating on df5, so Bruzon takes and hopes to weather the storm. Rook takes f7, the immortal sacrifice. Wei Yi gives up a full rook to drag the black king into the open. This is the move that earns the game its legendary status. Kxf7 is forced, and the king hunt begins. The king is forced to capture on f7. The black monarch steps out of its castle and into the wilderness. There is no going back. Queen to h7 with check. The king is driven forward. Wei Yi's queen chases the king deeper into the board, and there is nowhere to hide. The king marches to e6, heading toward the center of the board. A king on e6 in the middle game is usually a death sentence. E takes d5, check. Another sacrifice. This time a pawn capturing the knight with devastating discovered attack potential. The king is pushed even deeper. King takes d5, stepping into the very center of the board. The black king stands on d5, exposed to every piece. This is extraordinary. Bishop to e4 with check. Yet another sacrifice. Wei Yi offers the bishop to lure the king even further forward. The depth of this combination is staggering. The king captures the bishop on f4. The black king now stands on e4, deep in white's half of the board. Kxf7 to k6 to k5 to k4. The king has been dragged 4 squares forward from safety. Queen to f7, cutting off the king's retreat and threatening multiple mating patterns. The queen controls key escape squares while maintaining relentless pressure. Bishop to f6, blocking the long diagonal and trying to create an escape route. But the white pieces are swarming. Bishop to d2 with check. The bishop enters the attack, pushing the king sideways. Every white piece joins the hunt. King to d4, fleeing sideways. The king is now on d4, the 4th rank, wandering aimlessly through the center of the board. Bishop to a3 with check. The bishop bounces back with tempo, driving the king again. Wei Yi controls the rhythm of the king hunt perfectly. The king returns to f4. It has nowhere safe to go. Every square is a trap and Wei Yi tightens the net. Queen to b3, a quiet but deadly move. The queen threatens qd3, mate, and controls critical diagonals. The king is running out of squares. King to 5, desperately seeking shelter on the king side. The king has now traveled from f7 to s6 to d5 to e4, and now 5. A remarkable journey. Rook to f1 with check. The remaining rook joins the attack with lethal effect. The king is pushed further up the board. King to g4. The black king has been chased to the 4th rank on the king's side. It has crossed nearly the entire board from its starting position. Queen to d3, maintaining pressure and threatening multiple mating ideas. The queen and rook work in deadly harmony. Bishop takes g2 with check. A desperate counter-sacrifice. Bruzon tries to create complications and open lines for counterattack. King takes the bishop on g2 to a. Wei Yi accepts the sacrifice, knowing his attack is far too strong to be derailed. Queen to 8 with check. Bruzon fights back with checks, the last hope for survival. Can black generate enough counterplay? King returns to gone, calmly sidestepping the check. The white king is safe, while the black king remains stranded on g4. Bishop to g5, repositioning the bishop to a more active square, and hoping to create defensive chances. Queen to e2 with check. Wei Yi resumes the pursuit. The queen hunts the king with surgical precision, cutting off every escape route. King to h4, pushed to the very edge of the board. The king is now on the h-file, far from any hope of safety. Bishop to f2 with check. Every piece fires with deadly accuracy. The king is driven further into the corner. King to h3. The black king now stands on the 3rd rank, just 2 squares from the edge of the board. It has traveled from gate across almost the entire chessboard. Bishop to a1, a quiet retreat with venom. The bishop repositions to deliver the final blows, controlling key diagonal squares. Rook to fight, hoping to generate threats against the exposed white king. But Wei Yi's attack is far too advanced. Queen to d3 with check. The checks continue. Wei Yi methodically herds the king toward the mating net. King to g4, force back to the 4th rank. The king oscillates between h3 and g4, both squares equally hopeless. Queen to g3, check. The noose tightens. The queen drives the king toward its final destination. King to f5, the final station on this incredible journey. From gate to f7 to s6 to d5 to fr to f5 to g4 to h4 to h3. And now, h5. The king has traversed the entire board. Queen to h3 check. Wei Yi delivers the penultimate blow. The queen forces the bishop to interpose on h4 to Artemni. Bishop blocks on h4, the only legal move. But this sets up the final, elegant checkmate. Queen takes h4 checkmate. What a masterpiece. 16-year-old Wei Yi has created the immortal game of the 21st century. The black king was chased from gate all the way across the board to hive before being mated. This breathtaking king hunt, launched by the rook sacrifice on f7, rivals the original immortal game of 1851. A game for the ages. And that is the 21st Century Immortal Game, checkmate in 40 moves. Wei Yi's rook sacrifice on f7 was the spark that ignited an extraordinary king hunt. The black king traveled from gate to f7 and s6, d5, e4, 5, g4, h4, h3, and finally f5, nearly every square on the board, before being checkmated. At 16 years old, Wei Yi created a masterpiece that will be studied and admired for generations. The depth of the combination, the precision of the follow-up, and the sheer audacity of the sacrifices earned this game its place alongside the greatest attacking games ever played. Want to play and improve your own chess? Visit chess99.com. Free, fast, and fun chess for everyone.